Hello, 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 and welcome to a new video on my channel. My name is Sylvia, and I'm a knitter and crafter who lives right outside of Paris, France. Instagram or Ravelry, my username on both of those platforms is SylvieRar, so don't hesitate to reach out to me on there. And today I have something a little bit different for you guys, a video that I've been meaning to do for quite a while, that I've had notes for months that I just haven't done yet. This is going to be a knitting fails video. So I think failing at things helps you get better. You know, when you make a mistake, you usually learn from it and you realize why something happened and what to do so you don't do it again. I am also an impulsive person who can be impatient and who doesn't always read directions really well. So some of these, slash many of these, could probably be, you know, can be kind of like due to those traits that I have. And also, if you're thinking, looks a little bit different, for two reasons, I decided to change the placement a little bit and see how the lighting looked like this. Usually I'm kind of seated this way, more or less in this direction over here, because the window to my office slash craft room is over there, and I kind of have the camera diagonal slash next to the window, and I had a janky little tripod. I bought a new tripod that is much bigger this past weekend, so I can no longer just put it on my desk. And I wanted to try this angle to see if having the light from the window in the back looked any better than having it coming from the side. Which, you know, logically it should, but we'll see. Because I kind of like having my yarn cabinet behind everything in my videos because it adds a fun little yarny touch to the background, and this is a lot less fun and interesting. This is just my closet. So there's like knits and stuff in there. I've made a list of projects that didn't come out quite right for one reason or the other, or maybe I don't wear them that much, or I don't like them that much for one reason or the other. Like some fails I think might be like a bigger fail, and some might be minimal fails, but we're gonna get into them. We're gonna talk about what went wrong, why it doesn't work for me, and whether I want to frog, fix, or keep the project, because I think there's gonna be some frogging. And I kind of would like to make a video series where I frog or fix some semi-fails, or even just like fix up knits that need a little bit of extra lovin', like some sweaters whose sleeves are too short, for example, and I would like to cut that on camera. I have my little notes here, as I showed you guys. I have a pile of knits on my sewing desk to my right, and I'll probably try them on one by one and show you how they look and what isn't really working for me. Here we have my first fail. If you watched my most recent podcast, this was featured on it, so this is my most recent fail. So even now, as a more experienced knitter, I still make bad decisions. Let's have a look. That's basically the main problem. I compulsively cast this top on. It's a Summer Secret Crop by Jessie May. I explained all of this in my last podcast, but if you haven't watched this, I'll go over it briefly once again here. Basically, I wanted to cast on something to take to Olympic events, since I'm in Paris and I was here for the Olympics. And I decided to cast this on wooden needles, since I didn't know if they would let metal needles pass security. I also decided to size up a needle because I didn't have wooden needles in the right size, and so I sized down. And that ended up making my top way too small, because I actually found that working with those wooden needles made my tension feel extra tight for some reason, and I haven't knit with wooden needles for quite a while, and it just came out way too small. It fits me fine here in the shoulders, in the waist and everything, but in the breasts it just doesn't work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to palm this off on someone. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm not going to frog it, because I really do like it. And on Tuesday I was at yoga class. I asked my teacher if she would like it, or another friend of mine who is quite a bit thinner than me. So next time I see them, I'm gonna see if one of them wants this. I've tried to pawn it off on other friends, but it's been a little too wild and crazy and Sylvia style for them. But maybe one of these two will want it. Hopefully it will find a nice home because this is a beautiful top. I absolutely love it. And I'm really sad that it didn't work out, but I'm not gonna rein in it. So this is the Maid You Look top by Vanessa Fleming, aka Ocean Knits, and I knit it in some cotton yarn from We Are Knitters, I think. And the crop top that I showed you before was a bunch of different scraps, but all the details are in the past podcast. But back to this one. Why is this one a fail? This is more of a fail in, like, I knit it fine, it fits fine, it fits great, but it's more this that bothers me. It has this massive keyhole cutout in the front, and I just feel far too exposed. Like, obviously you could see a giant chunk of my bra here, and even if I wear a skin-colored bra, I feel like it doesn't look great. And if I wear no bra, then I'm just flopping everywhere. Like, I don't have A cups. I cannot really walk around with no bra because they just go everywhere, you know, bouncing around, might slap someone in the face. And also the back of this top, it has a little string, a little drawstring that you crochet. And I think this is supposed to be tied into a bow. I didn't tie it since I can't really do it myself on my own. But the first crochet chain I think that I did for the drawstring in the back was way too short. So then I overcompensated and I made it crazy long. When I realized that it was way too long, I initially tried to unpick it, and for some reason I couldn't get it to come undone. And so I just left this insanely long thing that I'll usually have my husband tie into a double knot bow, but it's still really long. And one thing that I've noticed is it's not ideal for going to the bathroom. It kind of, you know, could fall into the toilet if you're not careful. So not super glamorous. See, the bra coverage there in the back is okay, but it depends on the bra I wear. Some of them stick out more than others. So between the super long cord, the super long tie, the giant keyhole opening, and also, like, this yarn is okay. It was random impulse bought yarn. This was also one of my very early knits. I knitted in my first year of knitting, just a few months in, and I impulse bought this yarn. It was a random D-stash on Vinted, and I bought 3 balls of this yarn. I was like, ooh, yarn! I think the colors are okay, but it's not really my favorite either. However, I don't think I'm going to frog this. I think I might, I've said this before, but I've never actually done it, but maybe if I do a video series about it, I'd like to maybe mattress stitch this shut just to get more coverage in the front. And I think then maybe I would wear it a little bit more. Maybe I could probably just even take scissors to those crochet chains. I don't know why I haven't thought of that before. Just take scissors, tie a knot at the end, and much better. So let's put that one on the fix list. This top, it was my very first ripple crop top worsted, which is a pattern by Jessie May. And I knit it in some variegated hand-dyed yarn that I bought in Brazil. Since my husband's Brazilian, we went there to visit his family a few years ago. And I love this yarn, and I love this top. And I think the fit is great, but when you look closely, you realize that something has gone terribly wrong. Let me show you. And this was a case of Sylvia not reading the pattern correctly. What I did, because this pattern, it gives you the measurements in both centimeters and inches. And my brain, I think, saw 8 and then saw centimeters. And I knit the body in the round, since it's knit bottom up. I knit the body in the round for 8 centimeters instead of 8 inches. I finished, I think, the whole thing, or I finished the body. I hadn't done the sleeves yet, and I put it on and I was like, what the heck? Why does this only go halfway to my boobs? And I think this is also it can be attributed to, you know, beginner Sylvia, because it was also one of the other first things that I knitted, one of my first garments. And I didn't even realize that 8 centimeters was just way too ridiculously small for a top. Now I know if I ever read that, I'll be like, well, I need to add much more length to that, especially something ribbed, which, you know, the more you spread it out horizontally, the more it will shrink vertically. And that was obviously the case. And what I did, I finished the top, I added the sleeves, and the fix that I could think of at the time was just to pick up stitches along here and knit in the opposite direction and knit it to the length in the pattern, which is exactly what I did. However, as you can see, that leads to there being a line of weird little stitches right across my boobs. And I feel like you can't really see it if you're not looking for it, but I know it's there. I do wear this top. I wear it quite a lot, actually. I think the cotton has held up really nicely. The cotton, the brand is, I don't remember what the brand is of the cotton, but I know you can find it in some places in the US. I've never seen it in Europe though. It was really soft, and I really love the variegated hand-dyed look because it's not something you often see in cotton and plant-based yarns. However, I kind of want to fix this. I don't know when, but I kind of want to frog the whole thing and reknit it so it looks good. I want it to, like, you know, be as beautiful as it should be. So yeah, we're gonna put that one in the fix category as well. When? I don't know, but I know it's a pretty quick knit. It's 4mm needles. I would just have to undo the extra length that I added, undo the sleeves, and then obviously this part here, and pick back up from here and add that length there. Here we have another Jessie May pattern. This is the mini mock neck top, and I knit it in some 100% merino from Super Glow Fibers. I love the color, it's absolutely beautiful, but I've got a couple different issues with this one. So first of all, speaking of the yarn, I've discovered that I'm actually quite sensitive. This is a 100% merino, and this has been washed and blocked. And I find that it's a little bit itchy here in the sensitive area of my chest here. Like, I don't really want this on my skin right here, I found. Another issue that I have with this is my pickup. I have some holes here. But the main issue, like, maybe I would have been okay with the holes. Maybe I would have been okay with it if it was felt a little bit itchy. I don't know. But it's the armholes. And I have seen 1 or 2 people on YouTube or on Ravelry have issues with that armhole as well. So for me, it's basically just too deep, I find, or it's, I don't know, it's just not quite working out. Like, it's doing this weird pouching and bunching here. If I try to pull it down, then my bra shows too much, and it doesn't stay like that anyway. So it just, it's not a great fit either. And I didn't do a gauge swatch for this. It's something that I've learned more recently. I've become a lot better with gauge swatching. So I think some of these, the fault is with me and not gauge swatching. But I did measure my gauge on this after I finished it, and I was off on my stitch gauge by 1 stitch, which on a fingering weight gauge isn't really that much, I think. So I don't think it should be that big and baggy. And my row gauge is actually tighter than the pattern gauge, so it should be hitting higher up than it does on the pattern. So I honestly don't know why the armhole is coming so low. I don't discard the idea that maybe I did something stupid and misread the pattern and knit way too many rows. I don't know. I'm definitely capable of doing something like that. But between the holes in the neckline, the janky armholes, and the yarn that kind of itches, this one's gonna be a frog, y'all. I don't know what I'm gonna use this yarn for, but definitely not something that's gonna come up and touch me here. Because it's beautiful. It deserves to be enjoyed and to have a project that I actually wear. Because I finished this last summer, I took some pictures in it, and I don't think I've ever worn it. Unlike not like the first one I showed you guys, obviously I haven't worn it because it just is dying on my boobs, but the past two that I want to fix, I have worn them before, but this one, nope, never. I even tried, I was like, what if I wear it kind of like as a vest or a slip over, and it just looked weird too, so it's gonna be a frog. This top here, this is a rocket tee, and it's a pattern by Tanis Lavallee. And I've got a couple of issues with this one too. So once again, Sylvia made her own problems. Sylvia did not swatch. And I knit the 41-inch size. And I think my gauge was off by a few stitches, so it ended up being bigger, which I don't mind, this kind of positive ease. But I think it might be why it kind of falls off my shoulders, because that V-neck opening is just too big. And half the time when I wear it, I end up like this, which is not ideal. Editing Sylvia here, also I realized while editing and comparing it to the pattern photo that my row gauge is also clearly way off. So that's definitely contributing to this issue. The yarn that I used here was, I have a Malabrigo sock yarn, which is super soft, really great for garments, not great for socks because there's no nylon, so don't believe the lies. Don't use it to knit socks unless you want socks that get holes real quick. But the mohair that I use, because it's a pattern that stripes fingering and mohair, is Drops Kid Silk. And seeing as I just said, I'm a bit sensitive, I think you can probably guess where this is going. Well, I find this itchy. I find this quite itchy. And if it's a little chillier outside, and if there's no humidity in the air, and I'm just like sitting at home, I can usually kind of wear it, but even right now, it's bothering me. I can feel it, I want to scratch, and I do wear it sometimes though. Just like right now is clearly not a moment to wear it. I think it's a bit humid today, and I have found that I'm definitely more sensitive to like itchy things when there's more humidity in the air. But since I do wear it, I don't think I'm gonna frog it. I don't really think there's anything to fix because I can't make this yarn unitchy. I could maybe put some elastic into the I-cord. I did hold the mohair double for the I-cords here, and I could probably hide some elastic in there, so maybe I could do that. And also just in general, I think this was kind of like a bandwagon knit for me. I was never planning to knit this top, and there was this cowl going on, and I was like, oh, I want to knit a rocket tee too. And so I would just impulsively cast it on, knit it because of that. So what has this one taught me? I find mohair itchy. There are a couple mohairs that I've tried that I find less itchier than others, and once again, it depends on the humidity and the weather, but like Drops Kid Silk, it's a no from me, dog. We're over it. I'm never using it again. I had some more balls of it that I sold, because I was like, I don't want to use this stuff. I also have a bit of a hard time deciding like when to wear this, because I find that mohair is quite warm, even held single like this. And the moment I start sweating, it gets 500 times worse. Like the itchiness factor gets 500 times worse. So I can wear it like in a sweet spot where it's not too cold, not too hot, but like it's also short sleeved, but it's not a summer top at all, I would say. Since I do get some wear out of this sometimes, I think we're just gonna keep it like this. Maybe do some elastic in the neck opening. All right, next top. This is another Jessie May top. This is the Swooping Scoop top. And we've got another little list of fails for this one. I did knit this also in my first year of knitting, so I was still very much a beginner, and I really, really struggled with the pickup here in the neckline. So it is just full of holes. They look almost decorative, but I know they're mistakes due to a sloppy pickup, and it definitely does bother me a bit. Actually, like here you can see that it's boop, right in the middle. I also made some changes to this pattern, so it's supposed to be quite cropped, and I had 2 skeins of this yellow yarn from Prue Yarns, and I decided to use this yarn from Hedgehog Fibers as a contrast, but I was like, I want to use as much yarn as possible. Because of that, I decided to lengthen the body. And what happened was, so this pattern, it has ribbing at the bottom, and it's supposed to be quite loose and very cropped. by lengthening the body, and especially because it also has a high-low hem, it's lower in the back. I put the ribbing on it and it looked like a dog's dinner. It looked terrible. I was like, well, we're gonna frog that. And then I decided I would just do an I-cord. And I think I did an I-cord first with 1 needle size, and it was far, far too tight. I think I frogged it once and then I re-knit it again, and it is still kind of tight, honestly. Like, I don't know how well you can see, but it just doesn't sit very nicely. Especially now, it's rolling weirdly. I did get quite a lot of wear out of this at first, but I feel like at this point I have lots of other little tops like this that I want to wear more than this one, so it doesn't get that much wear. This yarn is also insanely soft and I love it. So I think this one's gonna be a frog too. I'm gonna frog this baby, and I want to repurpose this yarn and make something else with it because it's beautiful and it deserves love. Here we have another little summer top. This is the Amedeo Tee by Johanna Garish, also known as Colibri. And this was also another baby knitter Sylvia mistake. I also cast this on in my first year of knitting, just a few months into the hobby. This pattern is supposed to be knit with Knitting for Olive pure silk. I had this cotton from Zoster & Gren, which I think on Ravelry it is classified as a fingering. It's 160 meters for 50 grams, so that makes it 320 meters for 100 grams, which kind of places it almost in sport weight territory. And that, compared to pure silk, it's much, much thicker than pure silk. Pure silk is 500 meters for 100 grams. But baby knitter Sylvia didn't really have a clear understanding of that, and I was like, oh, this is a fingering weight, and this is also classified as a fingering weight. Okay. Baby knitter Sylvia also did not do a gauge swatch because she was in that phase of her knitting life where she was like, I don't need no gauge swatch, I do what I want. And so this thing came out enormous, as you can see. I actually started knitting this in my first year. I finished it a lot later because even though it wasn't coming out great, I was like, I just want to finish it. And I still think it looks kind of cool, and I still do wear it, even though if you look at the pattern picture, it's not at all. It's not at all how the pattern picture looks. However, I think I'm gonna keep this like this. I wear it, I like it. The armhole is definitely a bit big. You can definitely see some bra through there, but that's kind of whatever. And the original, has like a little cap sleeve. The raglan doesn't come, like, it almost fits like this. And I don't like half sleeves that much. So I'm kind of happy that the sleeves came out much bigger and longer. The only thing that I find a bit annoying is because it has this really wide boat neck. There's zero shaping in the neck, by the way. It definitely falls off my shoulders quite a lot, which is also a look, but it's not something I always want, and it's sometimes a bit annoying to have to keep adjusting it. My last garment fail is this cardigan. So this is the Instant Gratification cardigan by Minimi Knit Design, and I knit this in some Noro yarn, the Noro Tweedle yarn, which is it's a bulky single ply tweed yarn. As with all Noro yarns, there are lots of irregularities. It's not, you know, all the same thickness, and it's got a lot of funky stuff going on. And I had 400 grams of this yarn, so it comes in big 200 gram balls, like a lot of Noro yarns do, and I had 2 of them, and I wanted to knit them into a cardigan. However, I was finding that a lot of the cardigan patterns that I was finding required a lot more yarn than I had, and I found this pattern that I think I was short a little bit, but I thought I would be okay. In the end, obviously, I managed to knit the cardigan with the yarn I had, but mistakes were made along the way. And this was a more recent knit, and I remember being absolutely kind of mind-boggled about how I had messed up so bad as someone that had already been knitting for a while, because I knit it last spring. What's gone wrong here? Well, a minor detail, the buttons that I chose, I bought the buttons and I was like, oh, they match with that yarn, but I actually don't like them together. I don't like how the buttons look with this yarn. I feel like they're similar, but different. And I don't know, just something about it I don't like. Then another change that I made was I decided, I think, to add some length, which then messed up my buttonhole placement. And at the bottom, it does this weird thing down here, which is not really great. I also have, there's no button placket or anything. It's just like a plain stockinette and it rolls. So I'm not a huge fan of how it looks, especially paired with this yarn. Because this yarn is so irregular, I feel like this kind of stockinette finish just makes it look super unpolished. Not that I'm someone who always goes for like polished in their knitting and their looks in everyday life, but I feel like it just doesn't look great in general. Another problem, so it's a super deep yoke. As you can see, there's like this much length after splitting for sleeves. But I remember when I split for sleeves, I was counting all my stitches and all of my stitch counts were off. Like off by like 10. And with a bulky yarn knit on 8mm needles, that makes a huge difference. So this is much wider than it should be. And also the neckline doesn't really work for me either. I have, you know, this issue once again. I've worn it out and about a few times because the yarn is really warm. It can work as a little jacket, but it just ends up like this. And especially if I have like a bag or a backpack or something and trying to deal with a wayward cardigan, it's just not worth it. So I haven't really gotten much wear out of it either. And I think this has to be a frog as well, because this yarn is lovely and I feel like it deserves to be in something else. I don't know what. I need to figure out once again, what can I do with 400 grams of this bulky Noro yarn, but it shouldn't have to live its life as this disaster. And then I can recover these buttons and use them for something else too. I have one last piece for the fails for you guys, and it's a pair of socks. So these are the Sunday socks by Petite Knit, and these are fails for a couple of reasons. The Sunday socks are knit with a DK weight yarn. They're DK weight socks. They're knit on 4mm needles. But later I realized Petite Knit's yarn that she uses, I don't remember what exactly it is. It's a very thick DK bordering on worsted. I used some hand-dyed superwash sock yarn in a DK weight, and it just doesn't look as good. Like, it's too holey. It doesn't have enough integrity, I think. And it was also, I think, the second pair of socks I ever knit, and the foot is way too short. I can wear them, but the heel doesn't stay on my heel, and they kind of fall down on the back of my foot. So, like, look at this. Look for this yarn. That's super holey when it gets stretched. You can really see that, and it doesn't look very nice. I have worn these around the house because they are soft and comfortable. But I think these should be a frog. Because when I first started knitting socks, I obviously didn't have that many pairs, so they got more wear. But now that I have a lot of hand knit socks, I just don't really pull them out. So maybe I can frog this and reknit this yarn into better fitting socks. So yeah, do you agree with my decisions? Frog, fix, or keep? Do you have any major knitting fails? Is there anything that you want to take care of or undo or fix? What do you think of my knitting fails? As I said, you know, in general, this is not the pattern's fault. I'm not criticizing these patterns. It's really my own thing. Most of these were early on in my knitting career, and they definitely helped me learn and become a better knitter. And I can look back and think, oh, I know that because of that. Oh, I know to be more careful doing that because of that. And so making mistakes just makes you better. All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye.